Hello and welcome to the Nialler9 Podcast, episode 317 of the long-running Nialler9 music podcast. Some other podcasts are available. Today's podcast is a catch-up with an old friend of ours. He's just been announced for The Circle by Jemison Music Stage at All Together Now Festival just this very day. And while I've written extensively about Dave Balfe's For Those I Love project, right up to last year's Carving the Stone album and the live show, it's been 7 years since we chatted for the podcast. So the Circle set has afforded us the opportunity to have a chat again. You may remember the original 2019 podcast, which was the first time that Dave talked deeply and intensely about the loss of his friend Paul Curran and everything that came afterwards, which was a catalyst for making that devastatingly emotional debut album about love, loss, grief, and friendship. And on his return to the podcast this time around, the topics are maybe a little bit less weighty, but no less interesting. A year after album number 2, as I mentioned, called Carving the Stone, nearly a year to the week, Balfe is making things for these upcoming shows this weekend at All Together Now. And he tells me he's been working on 2 distinct live shows. One on the Friday night, which is the Some Kind of Wonderful show, the more traditional version with these kind of props that he's building. He didn't want to reveal too much. Told me a bit privately about it, but we talk a little bit about that as well. But more just his expectation and how he works now, I found so interesting because as well as being a producer and a musician and a lyricist, he's very much a multimedia artist, and I put that to him about this stuff. And then, so that's the Friday night show, and he's doing expanded visuals and stuff like that, so we talk a bit about that. And then the Saturday night show at the Circle is where he's doing the special guest slot that was just announced. It will be a first. It will be an hour of club versions of For Those I Love songs. He's reconfigured, reworked, rewritten his music to allow him to present the music in this kind of late night festival environment. So again, acknowledging maybe an older strand of his musical talent alongside the kind of punk band roots with Burnt Out. So we talk about that. And we talk about the evolution of his live visuals and the nitty gritty of like learning and making things, which he just seemingly just loves doing so much, and the importance of nostalgia and album listening in a digital age. We got into deep chats about the importance of albums, the importance of gathering, of listening intently, of limits, of all these kind of things that are just been on my mind a lot this year. I think anyone that's been listening to the podcast this year, listening to me talk about, my rekindling my love of albums. Dave every year has done a top 10 songs that he loves for me on the site every year. It's always really interesting to see what he comes up with. So in that context, I asked him about what he's been interested in this year. So we hear about a gig he went to recently that he was really loving, but just generally, I just get a sense of this man. He treats his project like a vocation. It's his spare time. It's everything that he does, everything he loves to think about. And it's always really good to chat to Dave. So we're going to listen to that chat shortly. So yeah, I mentioned The Circle by Jemison Music, which has consistently offered one of the most varied lineups at the festival in a kind of a secluded kind of forest setting in the trees on the grounds of Curramore. And this is its 5th year, and it's no different this year, along with For Those I Love. You can catch sets from last week's podcast guest, Soak. You can go back and listen to that. Lovely chat with Bridie about where they've been at. The rapper Mike, Miss Dynamite, One Leg, One Eye, Delivery Service, Pebble Dash, Rory Sweeney, Jam Supernova, Orla, Mango, Ahmed with Love, Mabfield Live Podcast. So many different things happening on that stage, and there's always room for surprises and collaborations. So if you're down there, do check these out. The Saturday night set, but For Those I Love sound like it's going to be amazing. So let's go chat with Dave from For Those I Love on the Nialler9 Podcast.
Stay here in Ireland and sing your troubles into song. Bankrupt yourself just to stay where you belong. Hide all our morals in the past to make it last, 'cause we're terrified to leave the laptop class. Stay here in Ireland and you'll suffer through the grey, 'cause that money won't take your pain away, and your heart still makes you stay here in Ireland, where nothing comes for free, but you'll find beauty in the depths of Irish seas. Stay here in Ireland, cause you've been here all your life. What's another night inside this building site? Despite the price, the only ones you've ever loved all live within your neighbourhood. How could you leave without putting up a fight? Stay here in Ireland, and you learn to count your blessings. There's no future found around a life of planned obsolescence. The job of your dreams has been replaced by machines, but it's hard to complain once you look beyond the shores.
Listen, thanks for taking time to talk to me. I guess I haven't talked to you on a podcast for a long time, since our first one way back when we were kind of introducing the project For Those I Love.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's been a long time since then. I'm interested to hear where you're at, because you're in a kind of interesting space. The album came out nearly a year ago, a second album, Carving the Stone. You're playing a gig very soon at the Circle by Jemison Music Stage at All Together Now. You've done the tour. So I'm interested to see, haven't seen the gig in the Olympia last year, and it was such a great experience. And, you know, I think you've really ably sidestepped the kind of expectations that people might have had because of such a weight about the first album. And what struck me, thinking back on it, is again, and you mentioned it, you've been building props and stuff like that. You seem to have gone more in this kind of multimedia mode lately, or it's more obviously multimedia mode to me. Because I think when I saw you last in terms of in person, it was the listening party you did in the new theatre. And that was when you introduced the CCTV cameras with the pole, and there was a set for it. So, that was something you used in the set for the live show. So you talked about building props for the new upcoming show. So what are you building? What's happening?
I don't know how much I want to tell you. No, I'll tell you what I have. I'll tell you what I've done. I guess the difference is that there's two shows, right? So there's the Friday night show, which is at Something Kind of Wonderful, and then there's the Saturday night show at the Circle. So two very different shows, and probably not something I'm going to try and do again. Prep two different shows in unison at the same time with limited access to time in the first place. But the props are pretty heavy for the Friday night show. So for the Friday night show, it's been a funny one, a really interesting one to prepare. You're right that I have probably had more of like an ever expanding multimedia approach, at least as the shows have scaled. But that's largely because I have felt more confident in doing so. Like I wanted to do that stuff right from the start. I just didn't know how to. I didn't know how to do it. So even for like the very first shows, I wouldn't have really even known how to put together a show in and of itself. I had ideas in my mind, but I had never prepped a show at that scale before. Everything that I'd done in the past had been all the live music I'd played in the past had basically been in hardcore bands, which is a really different physical approach to shows. So I always wanted to bring in the wider multimedia elements. If I think back to like the first experiences of actually playing live as part of this project was basically the Other Voices show. And even from that, the approach to like sending references through to Caroline from Other Voices, who's just like incredible set build down there of like walls I had built in the past for projections for films and stuff. And then arriving down there, and she had built this like incredible wall, take the projections. Even from the early inception, I was thinking an awful lot about what sort of storytelling can take place on the stage through the visual props that you're seeing and the engagement with them props as well, what they're saying, what sort of an addition are they adding to the show. And I've been trying to scale that a little bit over the years as I've gotten a little bit more confident, probably gotten a little bit more either a little bit more personally skilled or a little bit more brazen in just trying to be like, I'm certain I can just figure something out here. I don't know what, but I'll figure it out. And then maybe that's sort of culminating a little bit in the CCTV rig for the previous tour shows, which is not entirely done away with, but is maybe just a little bit different now. I mean, for that, with a record that had quite a lot about surveillance as part of it, it felt like a strong and like maybe confrontational or uncomfortable addition to try and bring some of those topics to life visually, and I suppose bring some of the ideologies of the record to the forefront. That was probably my first time properly trying to build things myself for a stage, and I loved it. I was like, I'm super into this, figuring out ways to try and make it ultra lightweight and portable, to be able to bring it from show to show, get that sort of stuff on a Ryanair flight or whatever.
Yeah.
Like it was, in a very self-indulgent way, it was also very fun problem solving, which I love doing. So then when I was approaching this show, there's things that I wanted to do for the previous show, right? So I'm in a tricky position here where I want to tell you the things that I'm doing because I'm like, think about how fucking stupid this thing is to do. But I also don't know how much of the show I want to spoil directly beforehand.
Sure, yeah.
There's nowhere else for it to go right now. So there's a big lump of something here in the background. It's up on its side, but it's a big grass mound.
Really?
But what I probably would tell people about is I've been out in the garden for 4 days last week trying to build this giant grass mound to just have as like a central piece to the stage show. It's one of those frustrating things where, like, I haven't really ever really built props like that before. But I was like, all right, I think I can figure out the woodworking, and then after that, I can suss out some sort of way to bring this to life. So I built the wooden structure, I weight tested it, built some sort of a wire cage around it, and then used fireproof expanding foam to build it out, trimmed all that down and shaped it, and then built in this like fake moss and grass around it.
But like regular Bobby fingers these days.
Yeah, that's it. It seems like not quite at that level. Not quite at that level. But you build this thing, and like you barely. I had to build it with the measurements of the door in and out of my back garden in mind, because it can't get out otherwise. But like it feels like it's taken up the entire shed that I'm sat in right now.
Yeah.
But like I think it's gonna look like a dot on the stage. That's the problem. You pour like the guts of a week into something, and it's incredible fun to build. I can never test it beforehand. I can never see what it looks like on stage beforehand, other than draw renders I do. But I wanted something that I wanted to be able to build some sort of a piece that started to maybe help transition some of the more like visual themes of concrete and like Dublin suburbia that is maybe traditionally associated with the project, and I felt more in line with the writing that I've been doing over the past year or so, that's much more indebted to the role and nature in my life, or the alternative to the brick and mortar that I'm in every day, and to be able to build a prop that was something that I could physically engage, but also, help build out a new visual language, or a visual complement to the visuals that play part of a show like that as well.
Obviously, when you did the tour and all of the things that you did with the video stuff, it must have went well enough that you're like, okay. So for me, right, I used to do visuals like, 20 years ago, when obviously technology wasn't as good as it was now, and I loved playing with it, and I loved like layering things and putting things together, and every now and again you get like a camera feed and you do something, it was always like when you're doing it on your own, you're like, this is all out of whack and nothing works, and like obviously now it's a lot better, so you were able to test it, but there must have been some of that elements where you're like, I'm the one doing this. Was there someone helping you on stage doing this kind of stuff? Like when you switch to cameras that you had on stage with you, and you were streaming live kind of stuff, so there's the kind of sync stuff that would terrify me, to be like, oh no, it's not going to work. You know what I mean? Like something's not going to work, and like you just kind of go, oh well, I'm not doing that again. But obviously it must have went okay if you're like building new things and you're adding to the show.
I feel like maybe the clever thing would have been to invite collaboration and work with somebody else. but I didn't really know who to speak to about this sort of stuff. I had a couple of people that I'd met over the years that I could sound check ideas and ways of working for the live camera feed from the previous shows. And that was really helpful. Dan, that does the visuals for the Overmono crew, is a bit of a whiz, and I was able to kind of bounce a couple of ideas off him, of which he was just like, yeah, you figure that out. You can work it out. Doing them live on the on stage, particularly like during that tour last year with the Olympia show, it was pretty rudimentary and pretty rough around the edges. It meant that I had to change the live feed, the camera feeds on stage. I just had to go over to the camera feed and just manually change over, which is, it's fine. It means if you miss a cue, you miss the reveal of that part of the show. I feel like one of the things I've noted about myself is that in terms of pattern recognition, I've noticed that I've constantly put something into a show or something into a project that I just know is a bit of a risk, whether it's going to work or not, because it kind of takes me away from any potential for complacency. It keeps me pretty locked in the whole time, because I know, okay, I have to try and I have to be on it here to make sure that this works. There's no allowance for karaoke. I can't just allow it to fall into just rattling out a performance. It always had to feel like something was at stake. And I'm trying to temper that a little bit as I get older in this journey, and limit the amount of overall risk and be able to engage maybe even more with just the performing itself. But I have noted it, and with these shows, I most certainly have, I have brought the visuals back in a large way. Rather, this time I've been able to figure out a way to have, Ableton MIDI trigger all the different cameras from the CCTV rig to work as, visual choreography to the songs, instead of something that stays as static as maybe I had previously. But there's still an allowance to go off script and just do stuff with the cameras that feel right, that feel either confrontational when it's supposed to feel confrontational, that feel potentially like uplifting or life affirming, seeing yourself within parts of the more positive narratives, and not stuff that's reflective of themes or surveillance or whatever.
Sure.
So I've tried to bring that in a cleaner way this time.
Well, we find out next week. You haven't really been doing gigs, otherwise obviously you've been doing a lot of this. So have you gone to any gigs or gone to any festivals this year?
I've been having fun, but I've been having fun prepping 2 shows. That's what I love doing. In terms of things that I've gone to see, the standout was the Mount Erie show in the Button Factory.
Yeah.
It was, I found it, as always, incredibly moving. I think Phil is one of the most accomplished and prolific songwriters I can think of. I thought it was a really beautiful show in general, and one that I felt a great privilege of being able to go to see, because my understanding is that it was his only show outside of the place that he lives for all of 26, I think, all of 2026. He was just on holidays here and was like, I'll play a show. I'll do the Button Factory, which is great. That's a serious move to just be
I'm on holidays.
Way to offset the cost of your holidays, your trip over from America. But that was particularly special. So impressive to take a sold out Button Factory and hold it in silence for 70 minutes or whatever it is. Like, it wasn't people escaping to the bar and escaping out for a smoke. People were
not that kind of gig.
Captivated.
Yeah.
It's not that kind of gig.
But I'd imagine most people know that by now, With a
for sure.
You're not casually turning up going, I wonder what this is like.
I think one of the most impressive things about that, and I suppose about his career and his music in general, like sonically, that's a person with with the guitar and a voice on stage, playing music that's relatively similar track to track, yet never lost any bite. It was as compelling from the first song as it was at the end. I could easily find myself 30 minutes into a show going, Jesus, I'd love for them to pick this up here now and get on to something new. I know my attention span has depleted a lot in the past couple of years, but being able to hold that level of attention and delicacy for that amount of time was incredible, really astounding. And I've also never seen a bigger merch line in the Button Factory, so fair play to him for that as well. That's been the real standout for the I guess the past couple of months for me. There's been a couple of other things that have been standout or novel in their own right. Turned the clock back to my early teens and went to see Taken Back Sunday with one of my best friends, who was one of my best friends from in that time as well. And like, it was what it was, but sometimes there is something special in being able to give yourself the allowance to do that and be like, yeah, this is great crack. And
it's funny you should mention that. I feel like the nostalgia thing is something that I'm really revisiting a lot at the moment, because I'm doing a lot of these the album listening parties in the Big Romance. So we every month pick an album, and I've generally gone back to like the formative years of my listening. Mm-hmm. So like it'd be mid 90s, early 90s, well, mostly mid. So 96, 97, 98. So we've done like DJ Shadow.
Yeah.
Done.
Amazing.
Like I've listened to like Most Def, Black on Both Sides at the moment a lot, because they had the Ecstatic came out again, reminding me about that, like stuff like this. I feel like I've been, after 20 years of like just looking into consuming passionately new music, which I still do, there's given me this, and DJing gave me that as well, but this other true line of like really just enjoying old music. And I worry sometimes, because I mean no, you're like, so you're what, 30, you're nearly 35 now, are you? Just about
bang on 35 now. Yeah. Told someone I was 34 the other day. I'm still getting away with
it. So there was a study in 2015 that I still think of that was apparently people stop listening to new music at the age of 33. And every year you've done a really great list for me about all the stuff you've discovered that year, and I'm always really interested to read it, because there's always something in there that I just hadn't come across. And so I'm wondering how, because we all, I think there's such a nostalgia buzz at the moment, and it's understandable why. Like there's a lot of stuff coming back. There's a lot of like Deftones playing, and all these kids are into Deftones now. They're 16 and they're going mad, and like there's this cyclical nature of all this stuff. Like, so my niece, she's got a vinyl collection now, and the first like 3 or 4 records were like Massive Attack, Jeff Buckley. And you're like, all right. So when she was 16, she got these. So I was like, okay, you're getting really good stuff. You know what I mean? You're like Fiona Apple. You're like, shit, man, all these kids, they are like, it's really interesting. You're like, that's my taste. Whoa. This is happening. I don't know. If you have any thoughts about like revisiting that old stuff, because I think there's so much of that at the moment. Like the Beta Band are on tomorrow night. I want to go see them. The last time I saw them was 2004 in the Ambassador. I remember talking to them outside afterwards, and they were like, well, music industry fucked, so we're going to go back and be carpenters, stuff like that. So it was like, and yet they're back now, and there's loads of these kind of like reunion shows. Everyone's very big on like 20th anniversary, 30th anniversary celebration stuff. Just seems like there's a lot of it filling up the calendars, and I'm not mad at it really. I'm just like, this is an interesting thing that maybe it always happened. So how did you feel revisiting your youth like that?
I mean, it's probably not something, it's not something new to me. It's also not the first time I've been to see them as an adult either. Taking Back Sunday in particular. The last time I saw them was like also, a little bit indulgent also with, my best mate, who also grew up listening to them, and it was on my birthday, and they were playing Tell All Your Friends in full. It was in Whelan's. It was great crack, and it was nice to be able to turn it back. Going back to the well a second time, it was great fun again. But it's not something new to me. Like you, that I could spend huge swathes of my life just revisiting music from my past. This entire weekend, the only thing I've listened to when I've been building this stuff is Aquemini and AT Aliens, just on repeat again and again. magnificent, magnificent records. It's kind of worried me there when you said that this research just come out and that you've learned if people stop listening to new music at the age of 33, because I have found myself in the past couple of months listening to a lot less music, full stop. Not just new music, but music, full stop. I also think that that's a consequence of kind of being in writing mode. Not that I'm writing a new record, but the Saturday Night Show was 60 minutes of new instrumental music. It was a revisiting of Carving the Stone, started as a club record, as a pretty intense dance floor record. So that was like that was a mass amount of writing and rewriting tracks, and in a really fun way. But I have found that, like, people ask, like, what were you listening to when you wrote the first record or the second record? But when I'm really in the depths of it, I'm listening to less and less and less music, and I'm not allowing my ears to fatigue. I'm writing, I'm working on music, I'm working on my, and then when I'm not, I'm trying to let my ears breathe. If I'm listening to audiobooks, I'm listening to podcasts. I'm listening to less and less music. And then I find, as a result, when I'm in those periods of time, it means I engage less with new music. And when the moments do come around that I do want to listen, when I am going to be out the back for 4 days building some stage props, I'm reaching into the record bag, because I'm pulling out things that I have a pre-existing relationship with. I'm pulling out things that I find predictable. I'm pulling out things where I go, this is the sort of music that I can fall into a flow state with when I'm building here. Then, it gets to nighttime, and my I'm trying to have a break. I'm trying to engage with music in a different way. I have found myself in those moments maybe engaging less with sitting and listening to new music, and instead, engage with music that has a bit of a visual component as well. Watching old grime sets. I've been watching tons of I just can't stop watching David Rodigan sound clashes.
Okay, yeah.
Like just tons of fucking David Rodigan in Antigua, against Poison Dart. Okay, an hour and a half long, and but there's something so beautiful about that stuff as well, because there's you watch it, David Rodigan clash, and you've got these like components of storytelling as part of it as well. He's telling you the story about like how he got this dub plate, what it means, the rarity of it, the beauty of the recording, and building this like myth around the song and stuff. I find that really invigorating as well, to like hear music spoken about by DJs in that way. It's rare that you get. It's rare that you like get to engage with music like that, having a live component mixed with the storytelling. It's the sort of stuff that's like entrenched in the folk tradition, where you tell the story, like you tell the history of this song before you play it.
Yeah,
I found myself like falling into like and indulging those things instead of like engaging with the blogs as much. There's still stuff, there's tracks, that the new Nicky Nair stuff, I can't get enough of that. I think it's amazing. Like it's had me like moving. I can't put it on without like dancing around in the house. There's Irish artists constantly still popping up. I think Gomi in Galway is like an incredible talent. I can't wait to see what he does. I think that there's still things, but I'm worried about that stat that you've told me, because I hope that it's not reflective of what's actually happening with me.
Do you know what my way of thinking about that is, and the way that I've dealt with it is, and I've talked about this a lot this year, and a lot of it's to do with moving to that Qobuz streaming channel platform, where it's more album based. So albums, this combined with doing albums and listening parties and stuff, the real focus on albums. I think for me, it's been like, there's so much noise, there's just so much music, And I think people have expectations on me about like coverage and all that kind of stuff as well. So one way I feel like I take control back is to kind of say, right, no, albums are the focus now for me. I love songs. I don't write about them as much anymore individually. Or if I do, I pick them 5 or 6, 5 here, there, 5 Irish ones, 5 ones.
Yeah.
But at the moment it's difficult. But anyway, my main point is like albums are what's driving me now. I'm like really, and that's made me really re-experience kind of just fall in love with music again in a different way. It's like, oh, discovery. And that's because that's how I used to discover music before I got the internet and all that stuff. Like going back and listen to like the early Smash Pumpkins records, stuff like that. But then also, discovering, I was listening to the Shy One album today. Really great records, which I hadn't heard. And I looked, that was one that popped up on a list and I was like, oh, I haven't listened to that. Just for me, the albums give me a way of like being able to have enough stuff just to be able to process it. But again, I find myself going back a lot to the older stuff at the moment. And maybe it's a comfort thing, maybe it's not, but I am a bit like, oh, maybe it's just an old age thing. Maybe you just gotta like start going, your head starts drifting towards the albums that you used to love. And I was thinking about this a lot recently in terms of like Metallica were here, right? So Metallica was never a band that I got into when I was younger. Like some of my friends were into Metallica, and I wonder how much of that is like the stuff that gets codified when you're a teenager. Somebody asked me recently, like, are you going to see Metallica? I was like, I had been thinking about it. I was like, oh, maybe like if we weren't having a baby, I would like go and have a look. What I'm trying to say is like, I guess there's a curiosity developing out of this stuff to revisit things of that time that I discarded, or was like, nah, that wasn't for me. So your taste gets coagulated when you're a teenager. And that's what the main thing, that when people stop listening to new music when they're 33, apparently what happens is they go and just listen to the stuff they liked as a teenager, which like I've been doing a lot of, like listening to The Streets, for example, or like, The Prodigy, where our listen party album next week is Chemical Brothers, Dig Your Own Hole. Stuff like that. So you're just like, I just want to like, sometimes it's like you just want to go and listen to the old stuff all the time, and I feel bad almost sometimes. You know what I mean? I find it so invigorating just to go back and spend time with that. I'm reading that Simon Reynolds book. Just started it actually, but it's good so far. Still in a Dream, about shoegaze and slackers, 84 to 94. So a lot of like shoegazy stuff. Obviously, shoegaze is like massive with kids in the last few years as well. So there's all that, and I think just that's so interesting. Simon Reynolds is a great example. Like I always talk about him, his idea of if you've read Retromania, I think I've mentioned it about 400 times on this podcast now at this point, but it's about like the whole book is about pop culture's addiction to its own past and how it repeats itself every 30 years. Now it's kind of speeding up now to the point where you're like, that's why I think it's interesting when I start to see like my niece listening to Massive Attack and she bought Mezzanine. You're like, wow, like this is the old stuff that people you would think is a bit, people would go, that's lame, I'm not interested in that. But there's just, there's discovery. It's like some of that stuff is really interesting. I don't really know where I'm going with it. I'm just like, I think a lot about these things at the moment, just random thoughts about like, what are we doing with music? Are there albums, like, so with the listen party stuff, actually, good example, very recently I decided I wanted to do the Rosalia Lux album because it's an amazing record. It was my favorite album of last year, and the earliest, the previous one we've done, we did a Big Thief record a couple of years ago, a year and a half ago, Dragon Newmore Mountain, I Believe in You, and I was like, that's 3 years. Yeah, it's also double. But the Rosalia Lux, when we put out a podcast about it there recently, it's like, it sounded so alive and so, it was just felt like the right record to gather people together and listen to on those Toby Hatchet speakers, because it was just the detail and the humanness in it, and like the personnel, like there's just so many like humans making that music with her as well. It's just like, it was so incredible. So just, I don't know, all of this is a roundabout way of saying I really like albums again, Dave. That's all.
I mean, I've always been a bit of a purist with the albums. Because I struggle. I think I've said it to you at times in email threads coming up to those top 10 tracks. It'd be like, I struggle with the individual track, because I can become so enamored with the 60 minutes of music, and it's so difficult to just pull to just pull one particular, you know, it feels like just pulling a phrase out of a song.
Yeah.
There's a lot of interesting stuff there. What you mentioned, like that search for comfort that I think people get when we revisit when we revisit songs, we revisit albums, that like that indulgence of nostalgia. Like we're in a particularly precarious time right now. Things are uncomfortable a lot of the time for a lot of people. I certainly have seen it with my peers, and I've been able to identify it in myself as well. When things do become super uncomfortable, or things are ultra unpredictable, you do reach for your comforts. And if that is just, pulling back into the archives of the thing you associate with the last time you felt, total sort of emotional freedom, lack of responsibility, overall predictability, comfort, humanity, friendship, love, all of those things. Maybe a lot of the stuff that, if you're very lucky, you can feel for a summer in your early teens, then it makes perfect sense to me why you'd be, listening to whatever it is. Maybe in my case, it is Tell All Your Friends, the Taking Back Sunday album, because it evokes this, like this return to that moment for even a small period of time. It's hard for me to listen to some stuff and not. It'd be hard for me to hear early enough We Are Signed this song or something, and not just for a moment be in the Ambassador Theatre going, hey, I remember that. That was things are very carefree and great then. And yeah, like of course we root back into it, and it's the difference between a song and that 60-minute album is, like that's a lot. There's a lot more comfort there in that, and there's a lot more emotionally associated with it.
I think the other thing here for me is that maybe it's a reaction as well to the Spotify's dominance on this and the emphasis on the song. And this is a way of taking it back for me as well. Is like, I'm kind of sick of the churn of playlists and all that stuff. So I'm like, what matters is taking it back to, the art and the craft and of all of the things that matter to me, and that will stay with me, as much as I used to love making playlists as much. I still do a bit, but like, it's really like one of the things is like, I bought one of those like MP3 players start of the year, and just like a small one, filling it up with the classics. And I was like, this would be an amazing present just to fill this with like 30 of my favorite albums and just give it to somebody, you know what I mean? It'd be like, that'd be a great thing. What a personal thing that would be to do, like just a lovely thing. But yeah, I think that's a part of it as well, just taking the power back in a way. It's been like, I actually need to be in control of this. And then when you bring in AI and all the stuff that's happening around that, and you're like, things are moving so fast, you're just like, maybe there's a part of that as well where you're like revisiting, not going to get duped by an AI song from 1998, am I?
Yeah. I appreciate. I largely appreciate that. My uncle, when I was maybe for like my 14th birthday or something, the very first external hard drive I ever got, he gave it to me. It must have been 14 or 15, and it was what was it? Mate, was it be 160 gigabyte external hard drive, and he filled it with albums.
Yeah.
Now, did he fill it? I mean, there was probably 30 gigs worth of albums on it. Like, to me, an encyclopedic amount of music on there. It's the best gift I've ever received, I think. At the time, it was like pre-streaming and stuff, and there was no playlist in there. There was no singular tracks. That was a click into a folder. Here's 10 songs, and I'm going to sit there and I'm going to listen to these 10 songs start to finish. I understand the return to the iPod, the return to the MP3 player. Makes sense to
Yeah,
me.
maybe it's the curation part of it as well as the we have access to everything now, but what we really need is a sliver of that. We need that, but we need just 30 or 20 or
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah.
There's like that streaming service that's out at the moment. Is it called Cantilever? And their whole thing is that they have a set number of albums available for you to listen to at any one point, and then they change them after a while.
Right.
And that's just I don't know how well it's doing or anything, but like, it's another way of looking at things. It's like a curated collection of albums that they think are really good. And I'm like, that's a nice way of looking at it, because you're not like consumed by choice then. And you're like, limitations are always something. I was like, I think we all need limitations. We all need it. We all need to have a limit so that we can just work away on what we want to work on and listen to what we want to listen to and not be oversubscribed, I guess.
I mean, I would certainly find it through using any streaming service that if it's just an empty search bar, like I don't know how to engage with it, because I have a limited number of, recently searched albums in my own mind that I can rely on. But there's tons of stuff. There's so much stuff that I have loved from 5 years ago, say, that are just lost somewhere in the archive of my mind that I'd find really hard to find again or trace back, because I engaged with them through streaming.
Yeah.
Maybe I bought the record, maybe I didn't. And I can't, I can remember the feeling that they brought about, or I can remember defining characteristics of them, but maybe I don't remember the exact name, especially some slightly more, like less commercially successful artists or something like that you're not constantly seeing again and again. That sort of stuff I find very limiting as well, as opposed to just, having a bunch of records or having old CDs or whatever. You're just going to scan through them until you see the thing that you remember.
Yeah, and maybe that's why one of the reasons why I'm buying more of those albums on vinyl, ones that matter to me. So I have them, because you can just so easily forget. I'm sitting here beside a load of my ones here, and you're like, I keep adding to it in a way that's like, this is my collection now. Do you know what I mean? Because obviously everything could disappear, and like, but I feel the same way about DJing as well. You build a collection of music and you discover something new and becomes your next new favorite and all that kind of stuff. And like, it's part of who you are. Like, in terms of like, that's for me, it's like listening to that kind of stuff is like, it's like you're building the DNA of who you are in a way. And I guess maybe there's part of me that's like, because I have two sons now, and I'm like, maybe it's just an excuse. I'm just like, oh, I'll pass this on to them, and eventually it was like, they probably won't care, but like, I do. You know what I mean? So I'm like, yeah. It's an excuse, maybe. And maybe the listening parties are the same thing as well. They're just an excuse.
I mean, an excuse to get people together in a room to listen to a great piece of music is that's
it still fascinates me.
That's pretty strong.
It's great to be able to do it, and it's also like, you hear so many stories from people, especially like depending on the album. Like, people have tattoos of records and stuff that they love, and like personal things that are just like, so it's just like, it every month you're reminded by how much it's such a personal thing for people to, the music that they love. Take me back to the Saturday show then. You've kind of reconfigured it a bit. So what was the genesis of all that?
So I suppose when I first released Carving the Stone, I had this idea alongside it that I wanted to, do a run of shows, but that at any festival show, I try and get an ultra late night slot and try and, write some club versions of the songs and be able to play some of those out, be able to, revisit some of the styles that I've loved making in the past. And then when the shows started being booked for the first run of shows on the Carving the Stone tour, it just never seemed possible to be able to do it. Like, if there was a festival show late, the Electric Picnic show was late enough, and then I had a 6 a.m. flight to end of the road the next day, and there wasn't a way to try and do that, or at least there wasn't a way to do it without it being destructive. I also hadn't actually worked on making any of those songs, revisiting and remaking those songs into club tracks. I kept thinking about it, and then I was quite hopeful that I'd be able to do something this year. And we booked in the main show for All Together Now. I was talking to a friend of mine, and I was like, "Oh, yeah." He was saying, "How's your show prep going?" I'd say, "Yeah, it's going good. It's going good. I'm doing this. I'm doing that." And he said, "Are you just doing the one show?" I said, "Yeah, I am. I want to do this other thing. I've been trying to work on some remixes of the tracks for Carving the Stone. I have this idea." And he was like, "Well, what's the idea?" And I was like, "Oh, I wanted to do it last year. I wanted to play club versions of the track." And he was like, "Oh, I'm working doing the Jemison stage on the client side. Why don't you just come and do it there?" And he was like, "I know you won't." And I was like, "Yeah, I don't know." And then I was like, "Nah, actually, I actually would love to do that. I'd absolutely love to have the chance to play these versions of the songs." But I'd wanted to release a remix version of the album. There is a couple of existing remixes of some of the tracks that other artists did, but unfortunately they never got released. I would have loved to have had them released, but it didn't come to fruition. I had started working on some personal remixes as well. My manager at the time was like, indulge that. Like, you used to make a lot of club music. If you feel like there's something left on the cutting room floor here with one version of the album, and you can pull some stuff from that and bring them to life in new ways, then indulge it and write it. So I guess I kind of committed to doing the show without having a single track actually.
But that makes sense to me
actually
now.
Complete.
Yeah, I haven't talked to you about the setup for the stage, and it's like,
yeah,
you love a bit of risk.
I do love a bit of risk, but I just love making things, Niall. That's all I like. I can't sit still. I haven't been able to get to that yet. Like, I can't really watch TV. Like I said, I've probably been listening to even less and less music. I find it difficult to switch off, and I'm okay with that for now. I feel comfortable with that for now. I think I can manage it well, but I don't feel myself when I'm not engaged in some part of the creative process. So I think consistently I've found ways to pile more on than seems possible, because I know that in doing so, I'll constantly be working, engaging, building, making things, and as such, probably feeling more like myself, feeling a bit more human, feeling more content with things. And I know, like, to pull the curtain back, that's probably something that I need to figure out at some stage and become, like, be able to just like take a holiday and chill out and sit by a pool and like calm the mind down and stuff like that. Like, I need to suss that out at some stage. I know that. Know that like that sense of risk also, like, it's not just that. I know it's also just that I love making things. I'm utterly convinced that I can just figure out whatever it is. Like, if I have an idea, there's a way that I can scab it together. Like, I can watch enough YouTube tutorials. I can read enough PDFs. I can try it and fail on it enough times to be able to just figure out a way to bring this thing in my head to life. Like, for the Friday night show, I've got like some short films as part of it. Like, I wanted to, something I wanted to do for a long time is bring parts of films, like scripted films, into the shows. And I'd been writing these scripts and engaging with the dialogue an awful lot. I wanted to be able to write, like, write some short dialogue films that, help add a new context to the music that's, you know, played afterwards, to hopefully be able to hear some of the tracks from the first and second album in a new way while they're bookended by these films. And yeah, like with that, I guess, like I hadn't done a huge amount of stuff like that before. I hadn't, the way that I shot the films, I hadn't really directed cast that way before. I think I took a little bit too much on those, because I tried to do like proper skeleton crew. But yeah, it's been this like adding on of things and adding on of things, because I just, like, I don't know, you get a little bit older and you become aware that the time is going by very quick. Like you mentioned a little thing earlier where you're like, everybody's doing these reunion shows, the 5-year anniversary, the 10-year anniversary, the 20-year anniversary of these albums. And when I was younger, I used to find those things a bit cringy, maybe. But now I'm like, I understand it, because 5 years ago feels like it was 2.5 weeks ago. It goes by so quickly. I understand why people are doing these anniversary shows. And because time is going by so quick, I don't want to slow down alongside it. Like, I want to make sure that it's every day is packed out with a moment of life that I want to be living. I want to be here for. I want to engage it, and I love making things. So yeah, I don't know. It's just gonna be a bit mad after these 2 shows, because I don't know what happens then. Like, I gotta do some. No, I have ideas. Yeah, I have things in the horizon.
Well, you're building a suite of skills by the sound of it. I mean, you're adding to your repertoire of understanding about what you can do, and I think that's really interesting as well. Like, it's like you're a one-man stop shop for everything here, in terms of, maybe at some point you will need to take on somebody else or bring somebody else in to help you with those things. But like you said, it's very clear that's what drives you with this stuff. That's why you're so interested in it. It's like the making. You love the making, you love creating things, and that's very clear.
Yes, it has. Like, I mean, it's very consistently been a process-based thing for me. The end result is of much less importance than the journey to getting there. And I was thinking, actually, I was driving yesterday, and I was thinking, like, visualizing parts of the show in my head, and I was remembering back to previous shows that I played, and thinking about that feeling where you realize that you're on the last song, and like you've played for 70 minutes or something, and like that. If it's like an actual feeling of genuine sadness that I'm like, I'm at this is the end. Like, this is felt like such a pure and privileged 70 minutes to be able to do this. And I'm very sad that it's about to end now. I don't want to stick around for any longer than the show dictates, because I want a show to feel consistent and fluid and stuff. I don't want it ever to feel like it's fatiguing. But I'm really lucky that I enjoy doing this. I'm really lucky that I haven't done it enough to feel fatigued. I don't know how many shows I've played overall, but it can't be that many, like, all things considered. It can't be a huge amount. I've never ever felt like, fuck, I'm not looking forward to this one. This is gonna be crap. I've always been like, man, how did we end up here? This is mad. I just feel, I'm very grateful. And if it continues, great. And if it doesn't, that's totally okay too, because it's been a lot of fun. A lot of things have changed. But yeah, it's fun.
It's very clear, alongside music, like everything else, how music is a vehicle to allow you to explore all these other things, which is these other mediums, which is, not many people do that, I guess, like.
Yeah, I think it's become a more common, and possibly as a necessity. Like, maybe people, even with, like, even cost of touring for people means that they have to go skeleton crew, and people are way more hands on than they probably have been in the past. I don't know. I wasn't really around then, but like, I see how multidisciplined so many of my peers that make music are. They're also considering every part of the show, and so many of them have the skill sets to also build out their visuals and, also do their own production for their live shows. I think some of that's a necessity. I think some of that's accessibility. Like we have, I know I've talked about it a lot in the past, but we have access to more knowledge than we ever have before.
Yeah.
And some people are really using that as much as possible. And I think a lot of people have this idea now where they're like, I can figure that out. Like, I have an idea. I think I can figure it out. Like, I'll troubleshoot it enough times to get it there. But also, I mean, ultimately, all of this stuff, like all of these things, like making these like ridiculous little mini electronics devices and building these stage builds and doing like live cameras with MIDI and all. What matters is, how do the songs fit into all of this as well? And that's probably something that I don't talk about an awful lot, because they're like, it's a less visual thing to describe. It's taken for granted. That's the part you have to do, but I don't take it for granted. That's the shit I really love.
Yeah, well, you can tell that when you come to the gigs, and you can tell how much, and that's why people resonate with you as well. Like, you're so clear how intently and how present you are with what you're saying. Like, there's no, like you said, there's no sense of going through the motions with you, which I think is
Sure.
like something that people really resonate with you, and like, that's not the same for everyone. And then maybe that's a part of, you haven't been on the road for 5-6 years touring.
Yep.
Maybe these things it's obviously, it can be taxing on you personally, from sure. So there's that as well. So it's like you found a nice rhythm for yourself, perhaps. You're like, this works for you, and also, you're not 100% reliant on this. You don't have to do this all the time. So
Yep.
there's that as well, which is, probably important to say, because if anyone's listening, they're like, oh, why has he got all the time to do this? I was like, well, you're fitting it in probably around all the other things you're doing, and like life and everything else. So.
Yeah, I mean, it's music is very much an 8 p.m. to 2 a.m. every day endeavor, and the weekends, it's not a 9 a.m. onwards thing. And I'd never begrudge other people for having to go through the motions, because like touring, the very little I've done, it is exhausting, and I can only imagine what it's like to be doing a 2-month tour or something like that. I would never begrudge anybody for just going through the motions. But
when I say going through the motions, I mean, like, maybe when you feel like people aren't really like engaging with what they're saying necessarily, as opposed to, I don't know.
I get that, and I'm lucky that, I'm very lucky that has yet to happen. Should it happen? But yeah, I just don't know if in the future, as I said, I don't know if I'll try and prep two separate shows at the same time. That's been fun.
Yeah, I mean, I love that duality of it all. You're doing two things. I mean, that's the kind of person that you are, and that's why you are the person you are. That's why you make the art that you do. That's why you put so much effort into these things. It's just like, it's really impressive what you're doing, and you surprise us sometimes as well, and that's, fair play to you. It's great that we get this show and tell in that way.
Yeah. I mean, I'm in a lucky position to have, even with the likes of the Circle show, to have been in a position to be like, I have this idea, and to just kind of know somebody who's like, yeah, I can help you with that. Like, you can come and play. You can come and play this stuff here. Yeah, I've been very lucky with that. But all of this stuff about intentionality and all this sort of stuff, it's actually quite funny, because I suppose with that, this feels like such a much more loose show. Like, this is, I suppose, to me, it's like, there's a one-off thing. I think like, here's one go of it to 60 minutes, and there's parts of the show where I'm kind of unsure what way I'll play it out as I play it live. Like, I'll see how it feels there, and I've kind of never really done that sort of stuff before. So with it'll be like such a like a regimented and intentional Friday, and then Saturday being kind of, maybe for me at least, maybe engaging with something that feels a little bit more in line with the stuff I did when I was much younger, or feels maybe a little bit new as well. So that's going to be fun to have that duality as well. It's it's not just a sonic thing, but even in the approach feels different.
Yeah, that's fun. Keeping on your toes.
Yeah.
All right, man. That's
Yeah.
lovely. Thanks so much for taking time to talk to me about this stuff. I'm really interested in it. I'm really interested in what you're doing always. So it's always nice to hear from you. You have a few months now to figure out some new music for the end of the year. Because I mean, if you're looking at your list from last year, the stuff that you picked, can't remember that. I can't even know how to pronounce it, but that record that everyone was going mad for at the end of last year, that Pitchfork put at number one. I can't remember what it was called. The Lost
to well, I'm going to say Tutanaka, but I probably can't pronounce it either. So I've been reticent to fuck it up.
Fair enough.
I tried.
Very rarely do you have to. It's fine. Lost Tutanaka, I think. I haven't really revisited that one as well around that time. It was that was one of the musical moments last year that sent me into another realm. That was the sort of shit that the Caroline Polachek thing did for me, where it just on first listen, I found it emotionally overwhelming, because I was like, I have been here for 34 years and I think I've heard everything, and I have never heard something like this. I want to be here for another 34 years. I want to get that far in the future and hear something else that, reveals a new sonic palette to me in a new way. The Caroline Polachek one being slightly different, where I'm like, I have never heard pop music like this before. I've never heard it so perfect. It just makes me want, like, it makes me want to go to sleep now so I can get up tomorrow and listen to it again. And that record blew my mind. I tried so hard to get they played 2 shows in London back to back, maybe 2-3 months ago or something like that. I tried very hard to get tickets and get over, but it was a no-go. They could be playing the Button Factory right now. I wouldn't have a clue. Well, I'm sure they're not, and they haven't been here yet.
I'm sure they're not. Yeah.
But you can easily miss these things, all right, for sure. But listen, Dave, thanks so much for...
Give it a spin, though. Give it a spin.
I will. Yeah. But that's good. We were talking about, like, reasons in the past, but that's the thing. New music always brings me back in. I always, like, fully, when I hear something I really, really love, it's just, like, the on repeat thing. I surprised myself recently. The new Phoebe Bridgers song, I was like, this is amazing. This is a really good song. Fuck. I can't believe it. It just gripped me. I heard my son singing the chorus earlier on. I was like, oh, I've been playing this a lot.
Joking. How old is he?
Yeah. He's 2.5.
That's amazing, man.
Yeah, I just heard him singing the words and I was like, oh, he's picking it up. But it was just a reminder. I was like, I've actually played this so much that now he's heard it and he's singing it to him.
That is incredible. That is that's it. I'm sure a very beautiful experience to be able to.
Yeah. It's great. I mean, I try and give him more age appropriate stuff, generally speaking. Like, not I had Wu-Tang on last week. I was like, probably should turn this off. I was like, I mean, in that zone now where you're like, it's okay. He can't really hear the curses yet, so it's fine.
I can only imagine what it's like to see a young person, like, properly start to engage with music for the first time, especially if it plays such a huge role in your life. So I hope you're enjoying every moment of that.
It's great, man. It's great. I mean, like, once you get past the children's song era, sometimes you just need it for your sanity to have something for the adults that isn't terrible, So, like, these kind of things is like, okay, grand. I'm into that. That's fine. We can let that happen.
Maybe
he loves CMAT for a while last year. Like, loves CMAT.
Wow.
And he kept going and putting the record on. But then he turned it off after 10 seconds because that's how short his attention span was.
Yeah, that's all right.
But it was When a Good Man Cries was the one he liked. You know what I mean? He was like, that one. And then he kept wanting to put on. He realized the record turned around and he was like, put on the one with the sun, Mr. Sun. and it was Primal Scream, Screamadelic. I was like, not that you wanted to hear the music, you just want to see the thing go around. I was like, cool, yeah. But
That's great. Maybe that's a playlist for you there, is like good children's music.
Yeah.
There's got to be some stuff knocking around.
Yeah. Well, listen, Dave, thanks so much for spending time with me, and great chat. Just look this week with the shows. And I'm sure I'll chat to you again. And yeah, hope it all goes as well as it sounds like it's going to go. And if it doesn't, you'll learn something from that as well, won't you?
I will learn. I will absolutely learn something from it. I appreciate it a lot, Niall. Thanks very much. As I've said, it's always a yes for whatever you ask. You were the biggest champion from the start.
All right. Thanks a million, man. Appreciate it. Go on. Enjoy the rest of your evening.
Memory of a better past. Overpriced rent took the task, and bars on the front lines of the boycotts. Now I'm reading comment section politics from genocidal hollow bricks. I'm sick, get me out of here, please. I'm 32 with acne, 32 with no gap to back me, and everyone else I know seems to feel the same as me. I said I'm sick, thick brick, get me out of here, please. A wasted life at 9 to 5 so we can deal with the squeeze. We seize the means of chronic boredom from the bourgeoisie. They feel the grip of wasted time, just the struggles to breathe. And when your day ends and you fall into bed, hold your face in your hands to fight the hell in your head. And you pray for a change, and you dream and pretend. And then tomorrow arrives, and you do it again. Because my lads aren't hopping out of cars anymore. My lads don't drink to death in bars anymore. My lads don't dice themselves with scars anymore. We've all got real jobs and we're bored. My friend still watches over me. We found our freedom in the sea. The cold will crush my smokers' lunches as it forces me to breathe. Pull the air in, call me Donny Detwish. New set list and a smack of an empty hearse, what a way to go. But still I feel the blood of my forefathers through me. I still see their marks that they left in the stone. Would they be ashamed of my moves if they knew me? For the trades I've made just to stay where I'm from.